All right, you guys, take two on this lecture. Let's try again. So welcome. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for all of your comments so far on the question section. Make sure you make a comment before tomorrow morning. So we are going to get into intro to writing for the screen. So this is our final unit, and we're going to talk both about TV and film in this unit. Today I'm going to primarily focus on film. Okay, so I'm going to check in with you and review your choice assignment. Then I'm going to get into the heart of the lecture and then recap and give you your assignment. Okay, your choice assignment is due Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. So this was the video game or the podcast, and all those details are on Google Classroom. So if you did not get that handout in class, definitely check there. Okay, before we get into The Lion King, let me jump into just talking about story. So what makes a good story? So here I want you to just think about one of your favorite movies. And I just want to hit a few of these little boxes here. So a good story is going to have the majority of these things. So it's going to have five senses. So that's where that writing, that imagery comes in. Make sure that you are using all five senses with your sense imagery when you write. Relatability. So your characters need to be relatable in some way. And if not relatable, maybe memorable. So in Eurydice, a lot of people couldn't relate to the nasty, interesting man, thank goodness, but you could remember him because of his unique characteristics. A familiar story is very powerful. A simple story is very powerful too. Sometimes you leave the theater wondering what the heck just happened. I have no idea what happened in that story, and those are not really compelling usually. Okay, jumping on. Structure. So just like we had our story arc in playwriting and in novel writing, we have a structure in that story arc in film as well. Differs a little bit, but really not that much at all. So strategic sequence of characters' events from their life. And we know a story event creates meaningful change, and a story event must happen in every scene. The value, story value, remember those are those relatable universal qualities that are positive or negative. So honesty and deceit, that's a story value, aka truth and lies. We have the feeling of powerful or powerless. Our character might start the scene on a really powerful moment, but then by the end of that scene be left powerless, and we have to wonder, okay, how do we get away from this, and how do we build from there? So every scene has to turn, and that's the term that we use. Okay, so the story progression again is that arc. And of course we use a script for film just like we use a script for theater. Now the format of the script is going to be a little bit different, but we're not going to get into that this week. Right now we're really just focused on story and then how our story is structured. So we're talking about the acts now. So every film has acts. Acts turn, or scenes turn. So that means, again, they're turning from one story value to another. So like a positive to negative or a negative to positive. And then those are built on top of each other. The scenes are built in order to build an act. So an act is a series of sequences that peaks in a climactic scene which causes major reversal of values, more powerful in its impact than any previous sequence or scene. So we have three acts in movies: 1, 2, and 3, beginning, middle, and end. So in Act 1, it's the exposition, and of course we have our inciting incident. Act 2, we have the confrontation and the complication. In Act 3, we have the resolution. The climax typically happens within Act 3, sometimes at the very end, sometimes more around here. It just depends on, what your storyline is. Okay, so I'm going to go into a real life example that hopefully you've all seen this at some point, either the 2019 version that came out last summer or the 1990s version of Disney. And that is The Lion King. Okay, so The Lion King. So we start, and I want to show you the story map first. So we start with Act 1, and it's the exposition, the beginning, and the setup. All of our major characters are introduced, our genre is established, our protagonists' need and want are revealed as well. Okay, so in The Lion King, of course, we have our protagonist Simba, the heir to the Lion King throne. We have his dad Mufasa. Our setting is Pride Rock. And those are really our major players until we meet our antagonist. And again, I've shown you that arc. So let's talk a little bit about Simba's need and his want. So his need is to live up to his father's wishes. And we have this really beautiful scene in both of the movies where Simba steps into his father's paw print and looks down and just sees how far he has to go before he's as big as his dad, even though he feels like he is. That's really his need, is to live up to his father's wishes and his father's expectations. But his want is to really go looking for an adventure and danger in order to prove himself sooner. And eventually, his want is to escape that responsibility, or escape his fear, escape his guilt. So in the Inciting Incident, it has to do with Scar. So Scar is Simba's uncle, and his evil uncle, of course, and he really wants to be king. You're going to notice the uppercase letters right here with our character names, and that does continue for screenwriting. So, in the Inciting Incident, a stampede is masterminded by Scar, which results in the death of Mufasa, his brother, and of Simba, or not of Simba. Simba does not die, but it does result in the death of Mufasa. And Scar tells Simba that he has caused the death, as in Simba has caused the death, and encourages him to run away and never return, of course, so that he can take the throne. So this is just horrible, like a horrible, sad scene, and it propels us into this Act 2. So, Inciting Incident, and it sets our character off on a journey. Okay, so here's our journey. We're about to have a B story introduced. And of course, this inciting incident provokes change in the protagonist's world that will challenge the want and the need. So, of course, that does happen where his father dies. Of course, that's going to challenge his ability to live up to his dad. All right, so here we are in the second act. So thus, Act 2 begins as we start on a journey. In a hero's journey, our protagonist is haunted by a ghost. So this ghost is almost always something emotional, like a problem to overcome. And it's something you probably see a therapist for in real life. Simba's ghost is his father, and quite literally, his father comes back later as a ghost. It's his father's legacy and memory. It's the onus of responsibility he feels for his father's death, and that he feels for the rest of his pride. By the way, The Lion King is very much like Hamlet. If you've not heard those comparisons, it might be a fun thing to look up. Okay, here we go. So we're still in Act 2. Now, the B story is about to be introduced here, and it really does provide some much needed comic relief in the form of Timon and Pumbaa. So we get this shift in a location, which does often happen in Act 2 too. By the way, sorry, my child is taking a bath in the next room, and he's very loud. But yeah, so Act 2 has a change in location, and that setting is pretty typical for movies. Oftentimes Act 2 will take place in a different location, and then Act 3 will take us back to the original location, which also happens in The Lion King. So Timon and Pumbaa come in, they rescue Simba, they teach him their new way of life, he has to confront new challenges, vegetarianism, etc. And we see him run from his ghosts, aka Hakuna Matata, it means no worries, so literally they're talking about forgetting your past. But we know the ghost always wins, so he's going to have to confront that ghost in order to achieve the change that is needed for this movie. Okay, so in every movie there comes a midpoint crisis, and this is the feeling that all hope is lost. And this happens when Nala, Simba's childhood friend, comes back, and she basically tells him that Scar has run Pride Rock down to the ground. The hyenas are just hunting there. There's no food left, and so she comes to hunt in the more plentiful areas that Simba is. And she tells him, like, you got to come back. We all thought you were dead. You got to come back. You can save us. And he just is like, no, I have a life here. I don't want to do that. But then, of course, he feels very conflicted about this after she leaves, and that is his lowest moment. And in that lowest moment, he is visited by his father's ghost, and his father tells him, remember who you are, the one true king. And so this is the direct confrontation of the ghost. Now, it does not always happen that directly, but Lion King's just a great example. So Simba says, I know what I have to do, but going back means I have to face my past. And he does. So that propels us into the third act. And this is where we can expect an end and a resolution in the final battle. So typically it's 30 minutes, and I meant to mention that before. Our typical middle act is 60 minutes, and our typical first act is 30. So it follows generally a 30, 60, 30 structure. So Act 3, he returns to Pride Rock. There is a fiery, epic battle between Scar and Simba for the crown. The resolution is that Scar is defeated. Of course, we don't see him die because it's Disney, but he is killed by hyenas. The resolution, the new normal at Pride Rock is restored. Simba and Nala continue the circle of life. They're married and they have a baby. All right, so did this film satisfy the protagonist's need and want and make them a better person in the end by confronting a ghost? What do you think? Simba's need to live up to his father's wishes. Well, at the end he became king, so check, he did. Simba's want to go looking for an adventure and in danger in order to prove himself? Yep, definitely. So he did that. Finally, and this is I think the most essential part that really makes it a good movie, our character learned a lesson and they grew from the experience. So he learned, don't run from your past, remember who you are. All right, so this takes us to our next assignment. So over the next week, I want you to view a film that's PG-13 or under and complete a story map. And I will post this on Classroom, although I don't have it posted right now. Pay special attention to the hero's need, their want, their journey, and their ghost. And that's going to be due on Friday at 11:59 p.m. So, to recap, this is our final film unit. There are 2 big assignments due this week, so it's the Wednesday choice assignment and then Friday the film assignment. Each day you're going to have a check-in assignment as well. Most of you have already completed that for today, but if you haven't, check in to the class stream and make sure you answer the questions I posted. Also, I have some office hours. If you need assistance beyond just like emailing me or messaging me on Remind, I am available on Hangouts to chat. So I'm going to try to do that between 10:30 and 11:30 and 3 and 4 p.m. However, if that won't work for you, just get in touch with me, okay? All right, you guys, that is it. I hope that you're all doing well, and I will see you back hopefully tomorrow. Bye.